Age of Sigmar's dead and it's not coming back. Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Baer, and I have played Age of Sigmar for the past 3 years. I was playing it on day one, and I plan on continuing to play Age of Sigmar through the next year. At the very least, of course, through the second edition change right here. But let's face it, Age of Sigmar is dead. It's not coming back. There is already so many fundamental changes to the core rules. First and foremost of which is we just went from a 4-page rules book or rule set or pamphlet, whatever you want to call it, to a 18-page core rule set. Of course, you can download that for free right now on GW site. It's 18 pages right here, and that's enough to get you playing, get you checking it out, see if it is your cup of tea. Of course, you probably already have some fantasy models, and maybe if you didn't switch over to Age of Sigmar and throw some stuff on your round basis, maybe now you want to check it out. Maybe the level of complexity is there for you now, and you don't feel like it's a beer and pretzels game. Whatever the reason, download the rules, give it a whirl, see what's different, and then decide if you want to pick it up and keep going with it. Now, this is the core rulebook. It will be available day one, June 30th, for purchase at $60 US, or you can buy the $160 combo starter set that comes with all sorts of new miniatures for the Night Haunts and the Stormcast. But for most folks, I feel like if you've already been playing, all you need is, in theory, this book, or you can pay for, download and print out the core rules here from GW site. It's the 18 pages, like I said. You will need the General's Handbook if you want to play in match play games, tournaments and stuff like that. They're probably going to run match play, so you're going to need that. You're also not going to get the rules for your allegiance abilities. They are in here, unless they're in the General's Handbook. We don't know yet. They're in here for the 4 alliances, and you're also not going to get all the rules for endless spells, unless, of course, you buy the Malign Sorcery expansion to get all of the rules for that, all the new artifacts of power, and relics, of course, and all the rules for the spells that you can play if you're using the Realm of Battle rules, which I assume will be the case. So you're not going to get any of that, and of course, you're not going to get the rules for pitch battles for playing match play in this book here. So that's kind of the pros and cons to what do I need to buy to play? Well, in theory, you need the $60 book, you need the $75 Malign Sorcery expansion, and the $35 General's Handbook just to continue playing competitively in Age of Sigmar. Like I said, Age of Sigmar is dead. It's not coming back. Where it was early in the year is no longer where we're at for a number of reasons, most of which are there's just a lot more rules to it. So grab your core rules. We're going to go through the stuff you have to know, not the little tweaks and stuff. We're not really going to cover this rule book per se, because everybody and their mom has a video out with the rule book. And granted, it's a very beautiful rule book. It's got lots of information in here, but that's not what we're talking about today. Your 18 pages of core rules starts on page 226, and I'm not going to show you each and every one, but we're going to go over some of the core concepts that have changed that you need to be aware of. But before we get to that, let's talk about bloat. Let's talk about day one bloat, because we know that 7th edition 40k changed to 8th edition 40k because of a lot of bloat. Currently, in Age of Sigmar, with the General's Handbook system, which was introduced first in 2016, then renewed again in 2017, of course, we're going to see a new one in 2018, we've got all sorts of new abilities. We got additional command abilities per faction, additional allegiance abilities, artifacts of power, battle traits, command traits, all sorts of stuff. And now all that is still in here. All that is still part of the game. That is stuff we know. If you played Age of Sigmar early in the year, you know this stuff. No big deal. It wasn't that much to stack on top. To be honest, the game hasn't been a 4-page rulebook since really the first year it came out in 2015. But now, on top of all that, we've got Realm of Battle rules. We've got Realm Sphere Magic, which is in this book right here. And if you select, well, there's a lot of different things to talk about, but there's Realm Sphere Magic in there. Of course, all of the spells apply to the wizards themselves. There's command abilities, depending on which realm you're playing in. There's Realmscape features. Whoever wins the roll-off for the realm gets to roll in a d6 a table and apply a feature that's something that may or may not have an ability on the game. So there's already, well, that's like a new thing. So you're already setting up your thing, and you're like, okay, cool, and this is changing, now where are we playing in a realm? All right, that. Okay. And then there's the Malign Sorcery aspect to it. So for each realm, there's 6 spells. Okay, so now I got 6 more spells. I got a spell in each of the realm as well. So that's 6 or 7 plus whatever's on my guys. Okay, 12 new artifacts and power abilities available. So relics and both artifacts available to whatever realm you're playing in. If you're like, oh, I'm from the realm of life. Okay, well now you have this stuff. So I'm like, okay, let me hold on. So there's a little bit of bloat. Isn't it an unacceptable amount of bloat? I don't know. Players will honestly vote with the dollars, with the hobby dollars, whether they're going to continue to play. That's not what we're here about. And of course, all this is pre-General's Handbook. I would imagine General's Handbook in the past, as you can see right here from 2017, they did update it a little bit. They put some, allegiance abilities and stuff in here for some of the battle tomes that hadn't been updated. I would imagine there's going to be a new Stormcast and a Night Haunt battalion. So that'll be the 3rd Stormcast book that we've seen. It's kind of crazy if you start thinking about it, but whatever. I guess people really like their Stormcasts. People definitely like their Space Marines, and then of course all the points and everything like that. We know a lot of the points are going to go down. So we've already seen additional command abilities. We've already seen new command abilities and new relics be introduced into each and every battle tome since late whenever Sylvaneth came out. I think they were the first one with it, right? Also, Beastclaw Raiders in late 2016 had it. These are my fatties. I love running these guys. Still gonna play because why not? It's 11 models. Well, it might be more now. Who knows? With the points changes right there. So grab your printouts, your core rule printouts, and we are about to break down the things you have to know that's changing for this game. Of course, there's a lot of changes overall and a lot of tweaks and just interesting things in general. But these are the things you need to know. Okay, page 1. Very first thing, measure base to base from now on. That was just silly. Overlapping your bases was a very dumb idea. It would ruin some of the well-earned and very nice hobby work a lot of folks had done. Thank God they fixed that. That was ridiculous. I don't know why Games Workshop did that. I love you guys to death, but sometimes you have some very silly rules, and I'm not even sure what that was about. So now we know that there's generals, okay? So here's the deal with generals. It's a little bit different right now. This is on the second page that I just skipped right over. You can choose your general. If your general dies, you get to issue a new trait for him. That's awesome. Really cool kind of stuff right there. Also, reserves. It's not like 40k where if your stuff's still in reserve after the 3rd battle round, it's slain. You can keep your stuff in reserve as long as you want. Obviously, don't leave it till the end of the game because then you don't get the effectiveness of it, and that's just silly. Battle rounds. Now, nothing's really super changed here. You still have the same turn sequence, but some very important things you need to know. Listen up. Listen. This is very, very important. Movement phase. They have specified movements, and this is important because you got all these predatory spells running around the table now. Predatory spell stuff happens in the hero phase. Hero phase is not restricted to moving. Things can move within 3 inches of an enemy unit. You are only restricted to moving within 3 inches of an enemy unit during your normal movement, which is during the movement phase. There are 3 different types of movement in Age of Sigmar now. You've got movement phase, which is your normal movement. You've got charge moves, which are during the charge phase. And remember, unlike 40k, you just roll a distance and move your guys. You got to be within a ½ inch. Different from 40k as well, but you don't have to declare who you're going at, and obviously there's no Overwatch. Combat phase, there's also movement. It's called piling. So 3 different very particular movements. These 2 you can end up within 3 inches. This one you can never be within 3 inches, and theoretically you can have movement in the hero phase. Sometimes there's command abilities that say, hey, you're doing this and you do this as a normal move, but also the predatory spells move in the hero phase as well. 3 things you need to be super aware of because they are going to come up in games, and don't get got. Oh, it's something else to be aware of, but you probably already heard. There's now 3 new universal command abilities instead of just Inspiring Presence. Command abilities all are going to cost you a command point, and there's different ways to get command points, but most notably, you're going to get one for taking a battalion or whatever. You probably already heard that, and you're going to get some if you have points left over. For every point denomination left over in 50-point increments, you get a command point to issue a command ability, and that's pretty much it. But we've seen those in the previews. No big deal. New rule alert. We've got Look Out, Sir. So it's finally coming back from 8th edition, and of course, I don't know, 7th edition, 40k, whatever. You must subtract 1 from hit rolls made from missile weapons if the target of the attack is an enemy hero that's within 3 of an enemy unit that has 3 or more models. The lookout sir rule does not apply to if the target hero is a monster. So once again, monsters get got, but that's okay. Pretty much used to it by this point. But lookout sir is coming back, so it makes it a little harder to snipe out those fragile characters that are going to be casting all these spells and doing all these things and taking Age of Sigmar up to the next level of complexity, I suppose. Also, split unit rule. I can almost talk. I don't know what the deal with this is quite. I would think, in theory, if you get spread out and you're in combat and you have 2 groups separated, but there's nothing here that says, we need some clarification on this rule. I feel like Games Workshop, it's just kind of out there and it's very ambiguous. So clarify this, because I'm not picking up my models because I have, I'm out of coherency. If you don't really explain it, that's exactly how that works. Like, I don't understand. We need a ruling on this. I don't like it. Leave in the comments what you think on that one right there. Cover saves are a little bit different now. You get +1 if you're wholly within a terrain feature. Does not apply in the combat phase if you charged in. So if 2 are in the combat already, they both get cover saves. Unless, of course, you just charged in, you're a monster or a war machine. Once again, monsters get the. You probably already heard a little bit more about wizards, but just a quick recap. To unbind stuff, it went out to 30 inches. Now, of course, you have to re-roll and everything. They changed Mystic's Shield. Now it's re-roll save rolls of 1. It's not +1 to your save. And Arcane Bolt no longer does D3 mortal wounds. It does 1 mortal wound, more in line with Smite. And if you roll over 10, or is it 10 or more? 10 or more, it does D3 mortal wounds damage. You already probably heard of that. Triumphs are back. They never really left. They're always around. But in match play, these were completely different, so just block that out of your memory. Here's a fun little rule. Garrisons are back as well, which is pretty neat over from Fantasy. Long story short, you get +1 save and -1 to hit if you embark, air quotes, very similar to how the Caradon Overlords get in their clown cars. If you embark into a terrain feature, there's some restrictions, but it's pretty doable for the most part. Remember, according to the rules, 1 terrain piece per every 2x2 square. So it's not going to come into play a whole lot, but when it does, and theoretically, if you cast the shield, Mystic Shield on a unit, then it's rerolling its 1s, you could get a really, really very hard to deal with unit. You're going to have to run in there and dig it out in close combat or something, because, man, let me tell you what, that is like digging a tick off a dog's back in the summertime. It's just very hard to do with all those bonus. A couple of real quick things. Auras, they clarify how it works. If an ability that affects a friendly unit are within a certain distance of it, then it also will work for the unit itself, which is good to know, because technically I don't think it clarified that anywhere, and it kind of works different in 40k. So, for instance, some units can't issue an order to themselves in guard. Doesn't make sense, but that's just the way it is. Pre-battle abilities, this is very important right here. This is going to break down how you can set things up. Some war scrolls allow you to use an ability to set up after complete or before battle begins. These abilities are used before the first battle round. If both armies have abilities, you got to roll off. So it's not like 40k where you can do stuff and things and you just play stratagems. This has a specific order, so don't get got on that one. Here's your guide on how battalions work. It's very simple. We already kind of covered it, but real quick. Something to be aware of is during setup, you can set up all or some of the units from a War Scroll Battalion at a time, rather than setting up each individually. Why that's important is because, remember, whoever finishes setting up first gets to go first. So, that being said, going first is strong, because when you roll off to get the top of the first or the second battle round, if you tie, priority goes to the player with the first turn. So no more going second to try to double turn on somebody. It's actually advantageous to try to go first now, because on, well, there's all sorts of math, fuzzy math, correct math, but on the roll of a double with your opponent, priority goes to first player. Look it up on Google, make your own determination. So many different people are saying so many different things about it. But that being said, it's going to happen more often than not. Either way, the math can support that. You do receive 1 command point for each War Scroll Battalion in your army. And of course, you can always take an extra artifact of power for each battalion as well. That hasn't changed from the General's Handbook as well. So very easy stuff right there to comprehend. And let's see if there is actually anything else to talk about in the main core rules. I do not believe there is. Oh, 1 in 4 units can be an ally, but there's still the normal ally restrictions, which you won't know unless you buy the rulebook, because those are all back here in one of these tabs. I don't know which one. So next up, Allegiance Ability. I mean, honest, I don't even know why I stopped. But Allegiance Ability is super easy. You've seen this in the General's Handbook for the past 2 years. It shouldn't be a super big shocker, surprise to you or anything like that. Battle traits are free. Command traits also free. You get to choose them. You get to roll for them. Whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. Artifacts, you get one per army for one of your heroes. Standard, can't have the same one. You can't stack them. You get an extra one if you take a battalion, whatever. Super easy. Same thing. You're going to have all 4 of them, Allegiance abilities for Order, Chaos, Destruction, and Death. No big deal. Like, we've seen this. This is very similar to what we've already had in the General's Handbook. So that maybe put it in here frees up more space for the General's Handbook. I don't know. Until we get the General's Handbook in our hot little hands, it's hard to say. Then we skip over to the Realms of Battle. This is part of the game too. You get to, well, it says you can choose if you disagree, roll off. I think everybody's going to disagree because nobody wants to get their stuff banished because getting your stuff banished is super bad. Regardless, if you play in one of the Realms of Battle, whoever wins the roll off, everybody knows the Realm Sphere magic, so don't worry about that. You also get a special realm command. That it will cost you 1 command point because it's a command ability, so you don't get it for free. And the Realmscape feature, you roll for it and something happens. It could be spooky, it could be not spooky. It's just a little bit of bloat for your games. It may pan out, people may do it, but it might be that whole like terrain thing with, you know, that nobody ever remembers to do. I don't know. I'm not here to say. I just know when I go to a tournament, I'm gonna be like, how do we play? Okay, cool, let's play that way. So it is something to be aware of, and it is only in this rulebook. Something else that's only in this rulebook is the well, I lied. This is actually in the Malign Sorcery. The rules for endless spells are in here. Some stuff you need to know. It's very interesting. We already talked about when they move and how that's important based on normal moves, etc. Unbinding and dispelling. You actually, wizards get a chance to unbind a stay in play spell, aka an endless spell. They changed the name from fantasy during their turn, so you can try to do it. And it can attempt to unbind an endless spell when it is initially cast as normal. In addition, a wizard can attempt to dispel 1 endless spell at the start of each of their hero phases. If a wizard attempts to dispel an endless spell, they can attempt to cast 1 less spell than normal in that phase. Theoretically, everybody's data sheet, or excuse me, war scroll says exactly how many they can cast. Who knows if that's going to be the case going forward. However, if you can only cast 1 spell and you use it to dispel, well, you won't get to cast. So that's just bad news bears. Also, for endless spells, you get to move them around the table, right? So that's kind of interesting. Predatory endless spells are moved around at the start of each battle round. So it might not be you that gets to control the predatory spell and tries to pop off an effect. It might be your opponent. Your spells might get used against you. But a savvy opponent, if they don't even want the stupid thing on the board, like the Purple Sun, will try to just grab it, take control of it. If it has 10 inches to get off the board, Pac-Man it off the board and it's gone. Like, it just goes away. You can literally move stuff off the board. It's like the vortex is going off the board in 40k. This can happen. So savviness versus silliness, keep them both in mind. Also a little bit of silliness. It says in here that if you have a spell model, you can attempt to cast multiple instances of these predatory spells, but you can't do so in the same turn. So say I cast a Purple Stun, it does its thing, it runs around the board, it's still on the board. The next turn, I want to cast a Purple Sun again. You can. As long as I have a Purple Sun model, I can cast it. That's kind of nuts. Let's be honest. Because you only get 1 in each $75 box, right? So, real talk here, that's just silly. It may or may not happen. It may or may not come into play. But I can tell you what, I could definitely see some of the people at the top tables out there being like, damn, I need 3 Purple Suns. Where am I going to get 3 Purple Suns from? And then I can see the people that are like, why would you do that? So I'm on both sides of the fence. I'm just giving it to you real because, again, that's why you're here. And that's why you're not getting that from other places. So besides all that, there's one more thing I want to show you. This is your match play rules. I don't know what's going on with this picture, Games Workshop, but for real, this dude's flicking this dude off. This dude back here is like, wait, what? And there's something crazy with the look of this picture, even though there's nothing improper happening right there. Just a weird picture to just kind of open the book up to, I'll be honest. Moving on, so we got the rules for pitched battles in here. Once again, taking allied units, 1 in every 4 can be an allied unit, but you also have to go by this chart, which also gives you a cross-reference with how many battle lines you have to have, how many artilleries you have to have. game links. This isn't anything new, folks. We've seen this in the General's Handbook. Again, maybe this is freeing up space in the General's Handbook. Maybe this is just an addition to, because we saw some of the stuff that's in here is also in the Malign Sorcery book. I don't know. Now, like I said, triumphs and command points. Triumphs are out the board. Don't worry about those. But remember, for each remainder of 50 points you have, you get a command point to spend on command abilities. Very cool. If your general is slain in a pitched battle game, do not select a new one. Think about that for a minute. So remember, back there it said, hey, you get a new general, you get new abilities. Here, you do not. So keep that in mind. It's a little bit of a misnomer, but there's a couple things that are like, hey, remember that thing we told you? That doesn't work like that anymore. Battle plans. I like their new battle plans. They brought some cool stuff back. They tweaked some stuff, like they got Blood and Glory, Escalation, Border Wars back. Which one is the Comet one that they redid? Gifts from the Heavens is the Comet, but redone. Let me tell you what, how many times I've played the damn Comet mission in both 40k and Fantasy, because it's in the open war deck in 40k. And the Comet has fallen in my opponent's deployment zone full of guns for Tau, or full of, you know, a bunch of baddies that I just didn't want to walk into, or Caradon Overlords. It's the same thing in Caradon Overlords of the Tau of the Age of Sigmar, right? Every time, it seems like every time I play it, and it's 100% of the time, it falls in my opponent's deployment zone, and I have to go get it. And that's just like GG, but I'll still play it out because I have fun. But it's just like, dang, come on, Comet. Well, now this one, you get 2 of them. So that's pretty neat. I like this idea. This is forward thinking. This is, bringing your gameplay forward. So kudos to G-Dubs. And Maelstrom. Maelstrom, that's right. If you're familiar with 40k Maelstrom deck, cards, whatever, that is in here. It's basically called Battle Strategies, and it's the same thing. So, woo! That was a lot of talking. But long story short, I don't want to get anybody down on the game. I just want to throw at you some real honest talk about what is changing, where we're at right now, not knowing what's in the General's Handbook 100%, although we know a lot of points changes are going down. I plan on playing the first major Age of Sigmar event here in the United States, maybe the world, 2 weeks after release at the American Team Championships in Chattanooga, Tennessee. One of the events I love to go to each and every year. You should definitely check it out if you are here in the States. Plan on still playing. I'm not getting discouraged, although Age of Sigmar is dead, and it will never be the same again.